Okay, so we have Stonewall, we have J.W. Mercer in Joshua, Texas now on his own piece of land, and he does a little bit of ranching, which he enjoys, but money apparently for him in those days was in farming, which is what he winds up mostly doing with his land. And in Joshua he has his family. He actually started his first piece of land and he started his family in Bell County because that's where his oldest kids' earliest memories are. Then he moves to Joshua. Anyway, moves to Joshua. By the time he's done, he's got 5 sons and 2 daughters, and they all live around him in Joshua. A couple of them are married and have kids of their own when J.W. decides to move again to a larger piece of land west of the Dallas-Fort Worth area near Stamford, Texas, where J.W. is buried today, and my grandfather Jasper is buried in that cemetery as well. At any rate, in Stamford, Texas, J.W. has all 7 of his kids, and the 2 of them that are married, their spouses, and the 1 child each that they have, all move together with him to Stamford. There is a story, and it had to have been Penny, J.W.'s mother, because it had been J.W.'s wife would have been too late for it to have been able to happen with her. But a story that one of the Mercer women is at home in front of a vanity mirror, and an Indian comes in behind her into the house, evidently, according to the story, intent on scalping her. He has a raised axe in his hand, and she happens to have a knife or an axe of some sort on the dresser in front of her herself, and sees what's happening in the mirror, whirls around, throws the axe or the knife, and kills the Indian that was about to scalp her. I don't know whether there's any basis of truth in that or not, but it was a story I grew up with. J.W. Mercer had a big handlebar mustache and a square jaw, and in the photographs that I've seen is an impressive looking character. My grandfather Jasper, when he was a kid, maybe in his early teens, asked J.W. how much land he owned there in Stamford. West Texas is just as flat as a pancake. That area, very few hills, trees, anything to break the horizon. But J.W. put Jasper up on a horse and gave him a little handheld telescope or set of binoculars, and told him, in response to the question about how much land he owned, everything you can see is mine. That might not necessarily make it a huge ranch by historical standards, but 1, that's a fairly good piece of land, and 2, the way that he chose to describe how much land he owned shows typical Mercer flair. So that's a cool story that I heard from Jasper from my grandfather. Another bit of family lore related to J.W. Mercer is the wooden gun. I have, and Wesley will have, a wooden 6-shooter revolver, like Colt 45 type cowboy pistol, and it's carved entirely out of wood except for the trigger guard, which is metal and which is nailed in, but the rest of the gun is carved from wood. The hammer is broken off, but it was obviously wood as well. The trigger is gone. I'm told that when the trigger was there, it was metal as well. The story behind the gun is that a hired hand on the farm worked for J.W. And when he left J.W.'s employment, he gave him that gun and confessed that he had spent a little time in jail and had broken out. The way he broke out was that friends wanted to smuggle a gun into him in his cell to help him break out, but they found all they could get past trying to sneak the gun in piece by piece were the small parts, the trigger and the trigger guard, and they couldn't get the larger parts, the barrel and the handle in, or the cylinder. So they got a block of wood into him and some silver paint, and that was it. He had boot black shoe polish in the jail. It was allowed, and he took a metal spoon that had been given him with his food, sharpened that on the cement floor of the jail cell, and made it sharp enough to whittle with it. And he whittled the gun out of the block of wood, attached the trigger and trigger guard with the pieces they'd been able to smuggle in, painted it black and silver, and it was convincing enough that when he pulled it on the guard believed it was real and let him out of jail. And J.W., according to the story, gave that gun to his son Kinsey, who gave it to his son Jasper, who gave it to his son Sylvester, who gave it to his son me, and so in keeping with tradition, I'll give it to Wesley. There is another more cynical possibility about the origin of the gun. It may have been carved by Uncle D, Kinsey's brother, and given to Jasper along with the story. That I have no basis for that except just my knowledge of Jasper and what little I've heard about Uncle D. But at any rate, it's an old family heirloom now.